Come on up. We're glad you're here.
I got them
Hey,
spotlighted.
yeah, good
Yes.
evening. How's it going?
Great. Welcome. It's a very busy time for you as
Yeah,
well. I
yeah,
know. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
We're all, busy is just a part of what we do, but
Right?
here we
yeah.
are. I'm
Yeah.
glad to be here.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to talk about being great. You've talked about this before, but we're going to talk a little bit about what you do so people understand. This is about being great, the five principles to improve school culture from the inside out. And this is directly related to how we're going to improve the behavior plans that we have, the behavior issues that don't seem to be working for a lot of people, but it's not because of effort. It
Right.
sounds like we just have to do a little different so we can improve the work behind it and make it impactful. So, Dwight is the director of student support systems. Has that changed, by the way?
Yeah,
I
the
thought
work is
so.
the same. The title's changed. It's Director of Educational Resources, which
I thought so.
is a unique name, but it still encompasses the three big buckets from our district, which is everything related to climate and culture, health and wellness, and intervention services.
Well, that's important though, because it needs
Yeah,
to encompass that. And you've been
yeah,
nationally recognized for the school, like school culture leadership. That's why
yeah,
it's important to get that right.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So I know you've got a lot of expertise in adult behavior, school climate, again, that culture, systems level student support. What
Yeah.
is one thing that, like, how would you say adult behavior shapes student behavior? Like one thing there.
Yeah, great question. So I think we need to start with like how we define culture. Because if you look that up, you'll get if 15 people look that up or come up with their definition, you have 15 different definitions of culture. So the one that I use as an operational definition is the traditions, behaviors, and attitudes and beliefs that the adults model on a consistent basis. So it's the adult behavior that defines the culture of any school or organization. A lot of times we focus on student behavior as culture. I think students respond to the culture. They don't create the culture. If they're creating the culture, then you might have a bigger issue at hand. But if the adults who are there more consistently, more and longer than students, and that behavior shows up on a consistent basis, that's what you define as culture. Some say, the worst behavior you accept from the adults defines your culture. Not that I'm blaming the adults for the behavior, but I think as adults, we are responsible for how we show up. And to create the culture that we want to create depends on how we show up, which is why it's inside out.
Yeah, I find that people are really sensitive to that right
Yeah,
now.
yes,
Uh,
yeah,
uh, yes, no, go
yes.
ahead. What were you going to
I,
say about that?
you challenge yourself to post something daily, and you had some interesting feedback. I
I
felt
saw it.
horrible for you, because again, it's not a blame game. It's not pointing fingers. It's just stating something that's real. But because of what we're seeing consistently throughout schools across the country, where student behavior is less than ideal in some capacity, we have to also look at what we can control, and we cannot, as much as we want to, much as we want to wrap our arms around everything related to the child from the time they get to home until everything to getting to schoolhouse. We just don't have that reach. We do have the reach though within our school, the schoolhouse. And so that's what we can control. We can control how we show up. So our attitude and our actions. So those are, instead of saying one thing, I say those are the two things that we absolutely have 100% control over. But I also know just from personal experience, when we're depleted, um, it's hard, it's extremely hard to show up as you really want to. So you have to work much harder. And I think Frederick talked about being intentional. So you have to be intentional about how you want to show up and the type of experience you want other people to have around you.
Yeah, you've shown a lot of vulnerability yourself in that,
Yeah.
and you have experience knowing that um, it is a responsibility we have to show up, but also we're
Yeah.
human. We're
Yes.
human.
Yeah. So we're not looking for perfection, just consistency. That's what's a part of the definition. The consistent behavior that is modeled is the culture.
Yeah,
Consistent, not perfection, but consistency.
that's huge. That's huge, even in mental. I mean, you've got the
Yeah.
background for the mental health leadership, so that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
are adults misreading student behavior, or like what are they missing?
I wouldn't say misreading. A part of it. in my experience, is maybe not, we're not so quick to adapt to the changes that we're seeing in students. And it could be due to a lack of training, lack of patience and understanding, or just that desire to fix it when in reality, we can't fix people. We can fix systems, we can create structures, but no one needs to be fixed. We can help adjust and help learn the behavior. So I think that's something we have to also think about. What language are we using to describe the students that are in front of us? We could say they're having some challenges, and then get to the root of how do we help them solve those challenges. And so I think that's a part of it as well. And I think overlapping all that is the mindset and the beliefs that you have about the students in front of you. And when you're tired, that's when you result to or you lean back to your default behavior. And sometimes our default behavior is reactionary. It could be defensive. It could be to shut down, like me. I tend to shut down to not escape the behavior, but just step away for a minute. It could be some type of emotional overreaction, which then triggers the student to get defensive and fight back, or verbally fight back. And then you get in a battle. And once you start battling the student verbally, you've already lost the argument. So we have to work harder at understanding where students are coming from, how students are showing up, what problems that they're facing. But as we're thinking about that, we also have to more importantly ask, how am I showing up each and every day? And how am I getting my what am I doing to restore my battery every single day so I can face the challenges that I'm seeing in the classroom or in the school or in the district as a whole.
Dwight, can I follow up on that? Because
Yeah,
you made a great point in regards to when a student is amped up.
yeah,
Sometimes our adults don't always have the emotional regulation
yeah.
to then help that student in that situation. So, what are you doing within your district, or how are you teaching your adults to look at their self first before engaging with the student?
Well, that's a great question. We have partnered with Thriving Educator Network. So I have about 13 educators, various positions, from social worker, school counselor, intervention specialist, assistant principal, classroom teacher, career tech lab teachers. So, like I said, 13, 14 people who expressed interest in this type of work. So we've joined the Thriving Educator Network. We meet on a monthly basis for 9 times out of the year, and we go through the whole framework. And it's very interactive. It's the whole goal is to empower each of us to model the behavior that we want to see, and then share that information with others in the district. So the reason why we joined that network is because that was a desire that we had, and I trust you all's work. I've been, connected, and somehow, I guess we've been in friendship for quite some time. So, um, reading your work, communicating about your work, listening to your podcast, it was an easy decision to join the network, and hopefully we'll keep that partnership going. But the reflective conversations that have come from those sessions have been very powerful, and we're excited about like what that's going to look like next year in some type of capacity where I'm really pushing them to take a leadership role in their either in their department or the school as a whole, so that more people are understanding the 9 principles in the framework. And then with that, every time we have a session, we'll do a follow-up email to encourage them to try those things out and share some experiences. And then we'll highlight that back to the group so they can see we have that internal accountability. So we're not just going through it for us, we're trying it out, and we're sharing our success stories. So it's
Yeah,
been a very, very productive process.
it's incredible what they're coming up with. What the way your staff is growing. We are
Yeah.
seeing that each and every
Mhm.
time. But you said something about that too that was important to us and that we recognize that I think that everybody needs to understand is when you do partner with other organizations to do the work.
Mhm.
Uh, Dwight, you were so adamant about being the one to follow up with the group as the leader.
Yeah.
Can you talk about why that was so important? It really was a great piece of it.
I think it's important for the leader to follow up on it because it adds that that level of importance. And I think again, Frederick said it, a couple other speakers said it, is that you put your time where your time and your words is lined up with what you value. And I wanted the staff to know that I appreciate their time and effort. And along with that, there's an investment there. So with that investment, there's an expectation. And they've, you know, they're very receptive to that. And they know that the email is coming. So they're now very intentional about putting those things into practice. Because in my experience, I learned that if you're in a cohort or a webinar or a conference of some sort, if you don't reflect on what you learned and then put it in practice within a short amount of time, it goes away very quickly.
Yeah.
So that's the way we can also like keep the momentum going and celebrate success. And what you expect, you should inspect, and that's one of the ways in which we do that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, and you model it. That's what's so important. So many leaders, and I know you would say this, Josh, is they just push it off and they hand it off. But
Yeah,
really, that culture piece is being a part of it. And that is true leadership, even though it might be tough, but you do invest truly into your staff.
yeah.
So you also mentioned mindfulness practice and being just mindful of yourself, but among the staff to improve the culture and student well-being. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, it's been a challenging year. I think everybody's saying that across the board. Like times are moving faster, expectations are higher. Seems a little bit more volatile. Leadership demands are coming at you, coming at us nonstop. So the world is faster, and we know that, and so we have to be able to like pause, reflect, and then make sure that we are the type of people that we want to be. So that requires the mindset of growth, grace, gratitude. When you do those things, you can then focus on what's going well. Focus on like the moments that matter, that are positive. What I've learned is the more we share those things, that's what we see, and then that's what we start to look for. And that improves that whole mindfulness. 'Cause like I said, if you want the negativity, it's there. If that's what you focus on, and that's what you'll get. And it doesn't mean you have this Pollyannic approach where you pretend it's not there. I think that's counterproductive. You have to acknowledge that it's there, and all these other things are going extremely well. So let's highlight those positives, um, overcome the negatives, and recognize that both are happening at the same time. So, but that's a mindset that has to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dwight, I want to talk about you being in various leadership roles and helping adults reflect, because I
Hmm.
know that can be a difficult job
Yeah.
and potentially a crucial conversation if one needs to be done. But how do you adjust their responses when dealing with difficult students?
With dealing with difficult students, we encourage, especially our assistant principals who work with difficult students, but also in the classroom, is
Hmm.
ask more questions, don't make demands. Can you tell me why you did that? Can you tell me what's going on? Can you tell me? And if when they answer, just say, tell me more. Tell me more. I hear you saying. So being practicing what I learned from you guys is that empathetic listening. You want to make a meaningful connection with the student, so that when there's correction and the redirection needs to happen, it's about the behavior. It's not a reflection of the kid's character. And so that way you can restore the relationship as you restore and repair the relationship as you are holding them accountable to what the expectations. It is definitely not easy at all, but we've seen a lot of growth in those areas. And even when we make a misstep and the situation goes awry, we're quick to have a conversation about it and say, tell me what happened. What would you have done differently? And then we move forward and make sure that happens. So we try to practice grace just as we ask that the students are given grace, but at the same time, it doesn't mean there's no consequence for that behavior. And then again, going back to definition, when we talk about discipline, the purpose of discipline is to change behavior. It's not to punish the kid, but it's to change the behavior so that the behavior is aligned to the expectations within the classroom or the school or the district as a whole.
Yeah, can you talk about the detriment of that, of the punitive approach in
Yeah,
today's system? We hear so many leaders just
yeah,
they know that it's not okay, but then there are
yeah,
so many rules and regulations.
yeah.
Can you
With
talk
the
about that?
punitive approach, that's how we lose kids. They may be there physically, but mentally and emotionally they've checked out. And so, and both things can be true at the same time, meaning you can have high expectations, you can have a rigorous environment, and you can keep kids engaged and while disciplining or encouraging the behavior that you want to see. And the best way to doing that is that restoration, that relationships. James Comer says it best: no significant learning occurs without a significant relationship. Rita Pearson. Every kid needs a champion. So these are like time-tested principles that are even more important now than ever because, as Frederick talked about, we have a mental health crisis with students. We're connected more than we ever been in our history, but we also feel more isolated. There's high reports of loneliness and disengagement. So what's really going on? The digital connections that they're not authentic enough to sustain what our human need is, which is connection to other people. And so understanding that and trying to look at the bigger picture, it's like we want students to be engaged, want them to be connected. They may not like the content, but if they like the teachers that they're connected to or their assistant principals, or there's one adult in the schoolhouse that they connect with, they will do the work. They may do it begrudgingly, but they'll put their effort in because they don't want to disappoint. Why don't they want to disappoint? Because they value that relationship they have with that one adult. It just takes one. And so we highlight and encourage, but we also celebrate when there that one connection has led to the students, as we say, getting to their next E, which is employment, enlistment, enrollment, or entrepreneurship.
That's great. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
And that's on the spot too, because it's a big problem. I'm hearing that
yeah,
a lot. Josh,
yeah,
you
Mhm.
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, but I think we'll do a disservice if we massage that problem. Yes, we can not acknowledge it. We know it's there, and it's more like, so what are we going to do about it? And that's
Hmm.
what we have to focus on. How are we educating, informing, and empowering ourselves and our staff to respond to the changing needs of our students?
Yep.
The Generation Z and Generation Alpha, again, they're much more connected, but also isolated. Um, um, they're more creative. They want to see significant and impactful changes, and sometimes the traditional structure of school doesn't match how their worldview. So what do we do about it? We have to look at how are we showing up and what type of environment are we creating and what type of connection are we creating with the kids and allowing them to
Hmm.
have that a voice in the way things go. I have a Gen Alpha at home. Negotiating, I would have never thought about negotiating with my parents and my mom. It just wasn't going to happen. But that's not the way of the world right now. So
Yeah.
I'm living it every single day. So I have compassion for the teachers. Like I said, I'm dealing with one. They're dealing with a class of 25, six sections. So hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to go a little bit deeper, Dwight, especially you had said something about like preserving the relationship, and sometimes we do have missteps. You
yeah,
talk about calling people up, not calling people out,
yeah.
and I want to know how, you're teaching your teachers how to keep students accountable, but also preserving the dignity of that student.
Yeah, and dignity is one of those old-fashioned words that we have to bring back, which is just honoring the humanity of another individual. It's not something that's earned, it's something that's a birthright. It's not, they don't have to behave a certain way, they don't have to do a certain thing, they don't have to speak a certain way. The fact that they have breath just like you and I, that dignity is not only warranted, it's a birthright. So again, calling people up is addressing the behavior without judging the individual for behaving that way. Even though behavior is sometimes a reflection of beliefs, if it's consistent, but sometimes it's just a reflection of a bad decision. And look at it as a bad decision, correct the behavior, and then, move on and get to restoration as soon as possible. The best way to do that is to have a conversation to get to the why it happened. Ask, like, what would you do differently? So you're teaching them a future behavior, and then checking in with them every now and again. So for example, when we have to suspend a student, 1 day, 3 days, 5 days, whatever, our building principals, assistant principals, what they put in place is a meeting with that student on the day that they return, just to say, we're good. Let's get back on track. We missed you. Hope you have a great day. So it's a quick connection to restore them back to the school community, and we've seen that be very successful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Little check-in before they
yeah,
get back into the
yeah,
swing of things.
and that's a very simple tool. A lot of our we have two social workers as well, one in each building, and they implement these check-ins quite often.
Hmm.
So sometimes it's a part of a student's IEP goals, which is do a check-in, but oftentimes it's just a student who needs to connect with somebody and that the social worker has become their person. So they
Yep.
schedule a weekly check-in. It could be Monday morning, Wednesday afternoon, or even Friday before you go to the weekend, just to say how the week go. Don't forget to use the strategies that we talked about. Make it a great weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah,
yeah,
every kid deserves a trusted adult in that
yeah,
building. So
yeah,
I love that you have a system constructed for them to make connections with someone that's a little bit older than them, of course.
yeah.
I want to talk about your book real quick. I don't know
Yeah.
if you saw, but I put it up behind me. So I
Thank
wanted
you.
to make
I
sure everyone
appreciate that.
sees that
Yes.
they need to be great. So I have queued up in the chat. I haven't pushed the send button, but you also have a free resource that talks about developing the skills. But will you talk about your book first before I throw the free resource out to everyone?
Yeah, so the book came about through an email signature that I started my first year as a principal in 2005. Started out, when you send an email, you have some type of salutation, and at the end, it's like yours truly or sincerely or whatever you put. I didn't want to put sincerely because it just kind of stale, and yeah. So I'm driving to work one day and then Be Great popped in my head. So I was like, let me try this on. So I tried it out about 3 weeks. I thought, this is corny. This is cheesy. So I stopped doing it. And then immediately a teacher came to the office and said, why did you stop using that? I'm like, I don't know, I thought it was cheesy. So no, I liked it because it was like a reminder it kept me going. And then a parent emailed me and called me and said, hey, I shared that with my boss. Like, why did you stop using it? My boss uses it every day now. And I was like, wow, I didn't know it had such an impact. So from that point on, till 21 years later, I'm still using it. But over the time, I started to think through, like, what does that really mean to me? And then just through, I guess, reflection, prayer, and desire, these five principles came through, which is to be grateful, relational, authentic, enthusiastic, and teachable. Again, the G is grateful, the R is relational, E is enthusiastic, A is authentic, and T is teachable. So I try to practice these in my life in some capacity. I am not perfect at any of them at all, but they are a great reminder to just live through those principles. And what I found is when we live out those principles, we have such a positive impact on the school culture, which is why the subtitle is Improving School Culture from the Inside Out. And these principles help you do that. So if you're ever stuck, if you're having a bad day, a bad week, a bad moment, a bad quarter, I would ask, like, how much gratitude are you showing? If you're doesn't if you don't have as much joy or energy throughout your day, I would ask, like, what type of relationships are you creating in your school environment with your staff, your colleagues, your students? And if you've lost your way, that's where enthusiasm come into play, because the root of the word is purpose. It's entheos, which is mean God, inspired or encouraged. So that's where instead of saying GRPA, it was GRE, enthusiasm. So that means purpose. And then authentic, there's such a great need for transparency that we have to remind ourselves that we can't show up as our authentic selves. And then when there's a lack of belonging, authenticity is one of the things that suffers the most. So we have to create the conditions for ourselves to show up authentically, but also create the conditions for others to show up authentically. And then the last piece is being teachable. As educators, I think it's imperative that we always have a learning desire, because again, the more we learn, the better we'll be for ourselves. Therefore, the better we'll be for the people that we serve.
So as far as the free resource, when they click on what's in the chat, what are they gaining?
So the free resource is a action guide, a Be Great action guide. So through that guide, you can use it as a one-on-one, one-to-one professional development, or you can use it as a team. So you can have a one person action guide implementing these principles. You can do a 30-day, you can do a 90-day, you can do an all-year study. So that's a free resource I'm putting out there just to try it on and see if people like it. I've gotten great positive feedback about it because one of the things that I tried to really focus on is two things in my writings, in the resources that I create, in my post that I may share. It's to be reflective, but also to be practical. I don't want to share theory. We don't need that. We need what can I implement right now? What can I implement tomorrow? And so there's several frameworks, strategies, questions that are included in the action guide. But also at the end of each chapter in the book, there's at least 3 reflective questions that work well with a small group who want to study the book or do the book study together.
Great. I love that you always think of that. How do we because people won't use it otherwise.
No.
So.
There's not an absence of information at all. So I want to make sure somehow we can cut through the clutter, cut through the noise, and make it practical and actionable for people who are desiring for something different and looking for how do I restore my flame? How do I recharge? How do I recapture the joy that I had, the first day or the first year? So
Great.
Hopefully that my book will encourage, help you along the way with that.
Absolutely, it will. It will. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Josh, is there anything we need to say about how to get that?
I mean, it's in the chat, so folks can click on that link and it heads over to the free resource. I also put Dwight's blog in the chat, his book.
Oh, of course you did.
The speaker page. I put a bunch of stuff in the chat.
Yeah, you did.
I appreciate
What
that.
am I thinking? Why would I even ask that question? Dwight,
yes, ma'am.
What do you want to leave everybody with?
I would like to leave everybody with a word of encouragement. Regardless of the level that you're teaching, the time of the year, you're doing the work that's necessary, and you're in this profession for the very fact that you've been called to push, challenge, develop, and grow students to help them get to their next level. You're right where you need to be. Stay strong. Let's cross the finish line strong, not sputter through, but finish it strong. And the best way to do that is to pour into yourself so you can pour into other people.
Well, that is well stated. Well stated. Thank you so much, Dwight. Thank you. I know it's been a long day and probably week for you, so we do appreciate your time. Thank you.
I appreciate being a part of it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dwight.
Yeah.